And what is good, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to Milwaukee Entertainment News. I am your host, DJ Bro. We are here with Theater's own, Stuntcock's own, and now Ruin Unleashed own, my old man, Alan Dane. What is going on?
What's up?
Has things been weirding you out with this weather lately on how we're in the new year and we haven't gotten more than like a dusting?
No, it's not weirding me out. It's just my front porch is icy as hell. Every time I step outside, I feel like I'm going to fall right down
Keep them salt.
it. Yep.
Catch you outside in the fucking springtime when I'm laying down grippy tape and shit, you know? Hell yeah.
Yeah, catch me outside. How about that?
Never happened to that fucking thing. I actually heard reports of like people like her and this new one, Sexy Red. She's just as stupid. Getting brought into the Illuminati. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, that's the kind of people that Illuminati's looking for? Yeah, I don't got no hope for Illuminati. Bullshit. But
Oh
yeah.
my God. Well, the people that are easily controlled, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. People that are easily influencing other people. But
Yeah.
speaking of influencing other people, where did you learn everything you learned everything from? Like you just like kind of like one day just wake up and go ding.
Well, no, actually, I got into music. Well, I was always into listening to music, from childhood. But when I was about 10 or 11 years old, we lived in an apartment complex out in Illinois, and I was walking past this dumpster, and there was a three-quarter length guitar, electric guitar, and an amp sitting right next to the dumpster. So I grabbed them and I brought them home and started taking lessons. And the instructor told my parents after 4 or 5 lessons, "Your son has no musical talent. You're wasting your money." I eventually got rid of that guitar. A few years later, I picked up a bass. I'm better now on bass than he was on guitar. So screw him.
Right.
So yeah, but I started out, the stuff I was listening to at the time was a lot of Alice Cooper, Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, and I figured out in my mid-teens how to play by ear, how to learn by ear, and picked up a couple of easy riffs. Then one day I was listening to Iron Maiden, trying to pluck out the notes, and I went, "Holy shit!" And
As many you do.
yeah, I spent all my time locked up in my room just learning and learning and learning and learning. And but actually, my musical influences in terms of my writing is more towards the Judas Priest stuff.
More towards
What?
Judas Priest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it went from there. I like the song structures of Judas Priest, but I mean, I'll listen to anything from a lot of Alice Cooper, a lot of Triumph. Um, so for the song structure, besides metal bands, so I trying to create my own style.
What about the song structure? Like, is it the key that they are doing it in? Is it the way they structure the progressions? Like, what about it is different than others?
Well, every band is different um, on how they structure their songs. The best thing to do, I found when writing, is to try to keep a song structure that people can follow. Oh, I just wrote this part. It's, a lot of 30-second notes all over the place. And it goes on for 9 minutes. And no riff is repeated anytime during the song. Like, what is this? Music is for the listener. You got to write something that when somebody who isn't a musician is listening to, they can identify with and they can follow, they can tap their foot to, and I had to learn that the hard way because I used to try to get more and more intricate, more and more complicated, and man, it didn't work because people would just kind of start talking to each other and walking over the bar to get a drink, go into the bathroom, go outside for a smoke. And I went, yeah, that's not working. I mean, other musicians would say, wow, that was really cool, which it did, but no one else.
That's where you learn to
So
keep it simple.
yes, I was about to say that the old adage, keep the KISS rule when writing songs, keep it simple, stupid.
It really kind of weirds you out how, okay, well, if that's the case, then how did bands like Queensryche and Dream Theater and, all those others that would go on with those 9 minute crazy ass different key signature and time signature every two measures, how did they pull it off? You know what I mean? Like,
Well, well, they still followed the basic KISS rule, and but a large part of the songs would, they would have the repeats. You'd have your standard verse, chorus, or whatever. And then they would go off on their little tangent and then revisit, the same verse and chorus. So there was some repetition there that got people to, recognize the song that you shouldn't have to walk out of a room and come back in and not sure if you're still listening to the same song or not. You should be able to know you're listening to the same song. And once you can do that, you can be as intricate as you want.
oh, okay, I see now. And now that you say that, I think about it. It's like, yeah, they really only got really crazy on like solos and bridges.
Yes.
Their verses and choruses were really basic, low key. Yeah. When you found that the equipment in the dumpster, was it already working? You had to fix it. Like, I mean, like.
No, it was all working. It was all working. Nothing was busted. Strings were on the guitar. They were like brand new. Um, a friend of mine, his dad went up to the store actually and bought a cord, a strap, and some picks for me. He probably spent a whole $10 at the time. It was in the '70s, and yeah, I just went from there. At that time I was a huge KISS fan, so everything I did, I wanted to sound like KISS.
Oh yeah. So when did you start playing around with taking apart your bass and taking apart speakers and playing around with that? Because there's a lot of artists that will just buy other like a different effects pedal or a different amp, and you'll see them with these like weird, concoctions of things. And I noticed you always would just have the amp and your speakers, but the amp and the speakers got some weird shit with them. It's just like it's taken a lot of years to figure out the insides of it. Where did you start learning that and getting really good at gutting things out and putting new shit in and not having anything happen to it? Like, because other people try modifying stuff and they get bad grounds, they get warped necks, they get all kinds of weird shit that happens. Yours always seems to be pretty solid and has drawn a key sound.
Well, the first thing I've done is, anytime I'm buying an amp, because it used to crack me up. People used to buy these big Trace Elliott amps and speakers, and no one likes the sound. No one likes the sound. Not even the people who are buying it. So they buy these big effects racks to change the sound. Well, why would you do that? Go out, buy an amp that you like the sound, that gives you your sound. Don't buy something because of the name on it or the paint job on it, because other people are telling you you should. Buy what sounds good to you and what you think would sound good to other people. And as far as when I learned to start taking stuff apart and working on it and changing things, it's called being broke. As a starving musician, you remember me in the old days, starving musician. You you had to I had to save money. If I blew a speaker, well, the speaker's $125, and if they install it, it's another $100. Well, screw that. I'll put it in myself, and then I had to figure out how to wire things and calling people up. Hey, when I hook it up like this, or when I install that, this happens or that happens. Oh yeah, what you got to do is this, that, and the other. and you figure it out.
And that was a lot of figuring out, like actually like playing with all the different kinds of equipment to know, was it the amp that gave me the sound, was it the speaker that gave me the sound, like which part of the sound came with which. Like that's a lot of playing around, a lot of different variations of stuff. How many variations of your bass alone did you go through before you found the right sound for the bass alone?
Ooh.
He's like, I still go through things.
There was actually a drummer that had a bass, and his bass player in his band was kind of noodling around with it. And
Noodling.
I went in and I said, "Oh, God, that thing sounds monstrous." And I asked the drummer how he got it. Somebody owed me money, and that's all they had. So they gave it to me. So I worked it out with him where I traded him a wireless mic for the bass, and that was my sound. I ended up buying, a few more of the exact same model. They stopped making in 1992. So finding them was really difficult because I didn't run into this thing till about 1997.
Damn.
Yeah. So, but I've been finding them and all busted up, and I've been able to fix them up. And people ask me, how do I get your sound? Well, you have to buy these basses. And they go, no, because they're really, people who are familiar with them want them. And I've seen offers online, people wanting to buy them for $1,200, $1,400, $1,600. And, you
For an
know,
old busted bass that needs work.
yeah, yeah, because of the sound, because they don't make those pickups no more. They don't make,
Anything anymore.
no, not for that model. But I had three.
Hell yeah.
The most expensive one was $100 from a guy who didn't know what he had. He said he got it in high school as a gift from his parents, and he had never played it ever.
Man. Right.
Right.
How long did it take to get your stack, your amp and your speakers?
Oh,
When
that,
when
that was
when
touch and go. I happened to buy my 410 cabinet. I was playing through somebody's amp speaker cabinet one time that had Celestians in it. I went, oh, okay. So I got Celestians, and I had a amp combo called the Database that Peavy made, and the 15-inch Black Widow was the most beautiful sounding thing to me. So I bought one of those and stuck it in an old Sonic cabinet, and I'm still using it to this day.
you just stumbled into the sound. Is what it sounds like. Is that like you didn't have like a sound in mind and try to figure out how to get it? It was more like you just stumbled into all of it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Fuck.
I mean, like my amp had my Galleon Krieger. It's an 800 RB. I was watching this band. I don't remember what their name was, but at the old TA Verns, and they came out, and their first song was like this Triumph song or whatever, and I just thought, man, that bass sounds booming and monstrous. And after the show, I approached the bass player. I said, man, what are you playing through? And he told me GK 800 RB. A few months later, there was one available in a music store in Kenosha for about $500. Again, this was like 98. And I drove out there and I bought it. And that's all the sound effects I've needed.
Man, keeping it simple.
Yep.
I've been with you through the years, and there are still people that I've seen, recent ask those questions. How do you have that sound? You mentioned the old TA Verns. What was there's a lot of venues that aren't around anymore or that have changed or that have been remodeled. Um, Back in the times where you were in the years where you were the heaviest gigging, what were your favorite places to play?
Well, I liked Vern's. Uh, at TA Verne's, we mostly played downstairs. If anybody remembers that, they had an upstairs stage and a downstairs stage. And when they had national acts, they played downstairs, and the local bands played upstairs. And I've played both, but that place was great. There was also this cheesy little bar in West Dallas called the Scoreboard in the 90s that it was just this tiny place, but we would fill the place. It was always a wild time, always a wild time. Women coming down, alcohol flying all over the place. There were times my bass drank more alcohol than I did. Everybody headbanging and everything, and the alcohol starts flying, going into my monitors, and Scoreboard was great. But also when we did when we played at Reuters for the documentary Eternal, that was a great venue. I enjoyed the hell out of that. A lot of people talk about how they want to play the rave or Summerfest stages and stuff like that. I don't like them. They're too big. You can't hear anything. I've done it, but not the preferred places. I think I prefer things a bit more cozy.
Yeah. I haven't heard anybody say that they can't hear anything on those bigger stages. A lot of people, like you said, they really like those bigger stages. Like, they look up to Summerfest and State Fair and those, major stages, and
They like the photo opportunity. They like the photos because you look badass on a big, huge stage and the lights blowing down at you and all the haze and everything from the atmosphere. It looks phenomenal. If you could just get away with having bands go up on these stages just for photographers to come in and take their picture, they do it, because it looks great on a poster. It looks great on a flyer. It looks great in your, on your Facebook page. That's kind of the thing. But when you get it, when you play the main room at the rave and you're on that giant stage, well, like for me, when I'm singing and playing at the same time, the mic is there and the monitor is right underneath you, and the second you step back,
you can't hear
everything
shit.
all the sound is gone. The sound is just gone, and the drums sound like paper, and you have to play the music in your head. I remember complaining about that, and then the next time I went to a show at the main room at the rave, Iron Maiden was playing, and they kept screwing up because you could tell they were losing each other. I went, yeah, I know how that feels.
Yeah. That's rough. That's rough. And I actually noticed that. I played at Oshkosh Arena and the Signal in Chattanooga. Those were the two biggest places, and it was, in the small places you won't even need monitors like half the damn time because you can hear everything already, but on those bigger stages it's like I know Don a couple times would miss his place because he can't hear shit. He'd go closer to the monitor, and it's looking back, those bigger places kind of suck. I can only imagine like
the small venues, the sound is bouncing all over the place. The whole place is rumbling, and you don't need to pump the guitar amps or anything through the monitors, just your vocals, because everything is just booming and you can hear it all. And I don't know. I just love it loud, So
yeah,
you don't get that on the big stages. Everything disappears.
yeah. Some people though with the bigger stages, they'll look at people that like the smaller stages and they'll be like, oh yeah, no, for the photo op. Why? Because you're in a crowded room. Okay, let's see how many people that really is. Yeah, well, I mean, we sounded better in this small room than those bigger stages. And when you said that, yeah,
For a
yeah,
while, there was this thing I did. There was this thing I used to do, man. When we would play in the Theatera days, place would be crowded, and I would grab somebody's camera and take a picture of the audience, to kind of post later on social media. And when I would do that, some of these women would lift up their shirts and everything, and
You can't
yeah,
use it.
yeah, really nice, really nice. But the thing is, hey, I ain't that way. I would, put little stars on the photo, edit it so you didn't see too much, and I'd post them online. Then I'd get yelled at because I posted them. Well, wait a minute, I didn't take off your shirt.
You're at my event, taking off your
Yeah.
shirt. Like, I don't know about you, but when I see a camera and my titties are out, I put them away. You saw a camera out and you put them in the way.
Well, it's great for promotion too, because dudes will be looking through your Facebook page or the band's website,
I was
and
like,
they'd see the
whoa, that
picture.
shit gets
They
lit.
go, "Oh, look at the chicks! Look at the chicks! I'm going to the next show."
Yup. So I know you've been at a lot of different projects, from Theatera, Stuncock, Forewarned. There was a bunch of them. Who?
Sugar Camp,
Sugar Camp.
Sugar Camp.
Right. There was acoustic string cheese. Uh,
Yes, yes, absolutely.
there was a bunch of those things that you did. Now you're in Ruin Unleashed. How did that come around?
Well, it actually started 30 years ago. For those of you out there who know who Brian Bollet is, and a lot of you do, um, I was friends with him years ago, and actually, he and I were the ones who put Theatera together. Um, but he ended up leaving, and during he actually had to come back into the studio with us because we fired our new guitar player while in the studio. So Brian came back and finished the CD for us, which was great. Um, and then he rejoined, got fired. uh, and when Stuntcock came around, we were an all cover band, heavier radio stuff. Great band, a lot of fun. We were looking for a replacement guitar player again, and he stepped up. And 3 months later, it wasn't working out, and he ended up in a band called A Tortured Soul. Now, Stuntcock, we had A Tortured Soul open up for us once, and it was a good time. But Rick Black, the lead singer of A Tortured Soul, left, and they couldn't get a replacement. And I was in retirement after Jim Martindale died. So Brian contacted me asking me to come out of retirement, work with him. And I went down and I met them. They're a great bunch of guys. And so I asked them what they were looking to do. And this is where we landed. So I'm back.
Right. Nice. Where did the name come from?
Whoa.
That's why I had to ask. 'Cause
No, believe it or not, when people have kids, the husband and the wife, or the boy and the guy and the girl, whatever, will argue and fight over what they're going to name that kid. Now that's two people. Put 4 or 5 people together and ask them to come up with a band name. Oh my God. It's a lengthy process, that names come about. And usually what ends up happening is what happened this time. You book something and go, oh shit, we need a name.
y'all started booking stuff didn't even have a name yet.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of bands start out that way. Tell me I'm wrong.
No, you ain't wrong. I don't know. Like, you get into the longer names, like, into like, remember the emo bands that were coming out? They had like, their song titles alone were like a sentence and a half long.
Well, the longest song title in the Guinness Book of World Records, I believe, by Pink Floyd. Several species of small furry animals gathered together in a cave and grooving with a pict. That's the name of the song.
That's about like all the emo bands did about the same thing. It's like holy fuck, why? And then the band's logo would look like the cracks in the leather couch. You can't read it. You know?
That's a good description. That's a damn good description.
You know, you just can't read it. It's like I don't know what the fuck you guys are. I don't know what you are. It looks like it looks like a sneeze. Is that how you pronounce it? Hachu, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I could never understand why people like logos like that where you have to try to decipher it. What what does that say? What does that say?
right. What kind of music is Ruin Unleashed really doing a lot of?
Well, we're doing it right now. It's all covers. Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, Megadeth, Metallica, Pantera, Ozzy, stuff like that. Um, there's talk about performing some originals, definitely about recording some originals. So we'll see how that goes down the road. But right now, it's mainly about getting a set list together that's really tight, really energetic, and can show off our artistic side as well. So um, that's what we're doing. Plus, that's the kind of music that influenced all of us when we were learning.
Yeah, I was gonna say why that type of music. You know, like all different kinds of music. You know, it's like I know you don't really like hair bands, but that's what's popular. You know, so it's like it's like you already know that you could jam the fuck out of a lot of stuff like that. You know, but like you don't like what makes you always gravitate towards that genre right there.
Well, I mean, me and Jim Martindale put together Sugar Camp because we wanted to play stuff that was radio popular that we could get into festivals and we could appease the audience.
Yeah, that's right. You did do that
Um,
kind of shit. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I was playing country. I was playing Brian Adams, and yeah, I mean, it was kind of out there, but um, that fell apart. I've tried to make some changes, and the acoustic thing. Well, let's take some of these classics and do an acoustic set, and that didn't last long, and trying different things. But in the end, you kind of want to go home again. And that's what I did. Yeah, this is what I want to play because this is what I like. I'm not aiming to get a big record contract. I'm not aiming to tour the world. I had those ambitions when I was younger, but now it's just about enjoying what I enjoy doing.
You mentioned when you were a kid, you were really up and onto the Kiss. Well, Kiss isn't like Judas Priest and all them. Like, so when was that change there? Because I'm trying to picture you as a really major Kiss fan. Like, I know that you're a Kiss fan. Okay, cool. You know who, like, I know you've probably gone and seen shows. I know you went and saw Rat when you didn't want to just because of a chick. Like I mean, I know there's things like that, but like,
Well, actually, I mean, there was a time when I was really young. You're talking single digit age that Kiss was the coolest thing ever. The songs were extremely basic, and that's what that appeals to much younger people. The more basic the song, the easier it is to follow and sing along to. Um,
so at
but
that
I
time,
read
what other artists were there besides Kiss?
there was a lot of other ones, but I mean, at the time, disco was in. My mother used to play the soundtrack to Saturday Night Fever over and over and over again, and it was just terrible. But I was reading in an article, an article in a magazine about Kiss, that they got the idea from their makeup from Alice Cooper, and I went, well, let me check out Alice Cooper. And after that, it was nonstop Alice Cooper. And from there, I realized I liked the heavier songs. New bands came out, Ozzy is really awesome, and Ozzy used to be in Black Sabbath, so it was Black Sabbath, and then it was, it just grew, it just evolved.
Type shit. I know it's hard to try and say. People ask me like, "Who's your favorite artist of all time?" It's like, well, it's really hard to say that. So I'll kind of like try to spread this out for you through the decades. What was like your? I'm gonna say a favorite song for the decade. 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s.
Oh, see, I can't even do that.
In the 70s, what was your favorite song?
I can't even begin to tell you a favorite song. Uh, I mean, it was nonstop playing records, and
Favorite artist?
in the 70s, like I liked Queen a lot. There was a lot of talent in Queen. Um, Aerosmith was really huge. I can tell you that in the late 80s and the early 90s, Spinal Tap was right up there, because those guys are just hilarious, and they're making a new movie now, which is going to be great. But yeah, anybody who's a musician who's watched This Is Spinal Tap from 1984 can totally identify with that movie.
Are they gonna
It,
are they gonna make that other movie at Shank Hall?
it's funny. I actually I saw this thing. It was a video where someone had gone to Shank Hall in Milwaukee and was videoing it, and the person, whoever was taking the video, was this woman. He said, "I can't believe I'm actually where Spinal Tap played," and she had her hands on the stage and she was saying, oh my God, they actually played Stonehenge on this stage for the movie. And I cracked up because I had to send her a message and said, "Look, lady, Shank Hall was an invented venue. It didn't exist in 1984."
That's like a bombshell to a lot of people.
It didn't exist until the 90s. And even when, I think it was somewhere around 92, 93, Spinal Tap came through for a tour, and it wasn't there then. Um, they came back a few years later for like an acoustic thing they did at college stages, and they actually went. They actually went to the venue and
So out of
checked
all
it
the
out.
times they came by, they only played there once.
They never played there.
Oh shit!
Yeah, they had heard that some club owner had named his bar um, Shank Hall in honor of the movie. So they wanted to check it out. They stopped by, they had a drink, they left.
But there's all the pictures on the walls, though. Isn't that from like? Oh man.
Yeah, the front door has the big Stonehenge thing on it.
Yeah, they got a smaller version up on the stage.
Yep.
It's still hanging. Like, man, that wasn't even there, man. That's gonna actually like kill a lot of people. Wow.
Well, let people hold on to their dreams, let them go there thinking that, they actually, I thought about it later and I probably shouldn't have, messaged.
You just crushed that lady.
Yeah, yeah. I should have just let her have her dream.
Oh
Sorry,
man.
sorry. Yeah, it was like in theater, in the early days of theater. I did a lot of we did some covers of older stuff, and these young people would be in the audience. I mean, when I started theater, I was in my 30s, and we we would do these shows, and these younger people would come up and say, "Oh, I really like that song, that your song," and it would be like it was a cover song, and they thought it was something we wrote because we did covers and originals, and One of them was like Black Diamond from Kiss. You thought we wrote that? We didn't write that, and
Hey, you know what though? Low key, for some years, I thought that "Last in Line" was an original.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a Dio tune.
Like as a kid, I was like, "Oh, that song is awesome." Like I knew the other ones, but I never listened to Dio when I was that young. It wasn't until later on where I was like, "Oh shit." But what has been the hardest point that you have had as a musician
Hardest point in terms of what?
in time? What was the worst part as a musician where you view that you were at your um, worst, lowest, wanted to throw it away, we're done, toast? Like, I mean,
Oh
because
man, that's
because
that,
everybody
that
goes through the ups and downs all the damn time, but there is that one defining point where you realize you ain't never going to give this up, and you should just stop going up and down.
well, yeah, I think those moments happen probably constantly where you're ready to throw it all away, and it just takes a show to change it. And the funny thing is it's usually immediately after the show you're ready to throw in the towel again because you got to fight with the venue for your money, or band members are fighting over what was done on stage, who did that intentionally, and blah blah blah. And as soon as everybody goes home and calms down, you come back together. I mean, there was a time my drinking was out of control, and I eventually was able to get a handle on that. Um, but yeah, that was some rough times. But I never wanted to stop. When Jim Martindale passed away, I said that was it. That was it. It was over. I'm not going to play anymore. It's done. And it took about 4 years later for Brian to call me for this thing. So I think, yeah, Jim dying was probably up there. It was probably one of the toughest things because he was like a brother to me. I mean, he was of course in Theatera a couple of times. He left, came back, left, came back. We put Sugar Camp together. We put Stunt Cock together. You know, um, we did all this stuff together, and yeah, losing him was tough.
There's been quite a few musicians out there that have felt the same way about other people that they work with, where it's just so it's a good thing you bring that up, to help anybody else that goes through that, as to there is going to be that time again where you're going to feel for years you don't want to bring it up, or you don't want to go up again, but
Well, like
once you
recently,
see that
Bill.
stage again, you're going to want to do it again.
Well, I mean, recently Bill Lyle passed away, and it it's crazy because when I moved here from the East Coast, no one would work with me because I had a funny accent. I wasn't from around here. I had no roots. I had no one to bring into the shows. I was just a musician trying to reestablish himself. And so I put a flyer up at the music store, Uncle Bob's, and he answered the ad. And if it wasn't for him, I would have never have been introduced to other musicians. Um, he kind of started my connections. Um, and even though we didn't stay in close contact, we did shows together. When we did see each other, we had some good conversations, and I always liked Bill. And so when he passed away, yeah, that was another one that hit hard.
There's a lot of reasons for people to want to put things down, but losing the people that you do it with is kind of a good killer of motivation. And
Well, I tell you what, I got to give credit to Dave Dillette out there. Got to give credit to him because when the whole 90s thing had died and moved on, here was this guy that he used to hump gear for Victims of Voodoo. He wasn't a musician that played, in bands or did shows or anything. And he had this dream of putting together a documentary about music in the Midwest during the 90s. And actually, Theatira was one of the first bands that he approached, and he asked us to be involved in it. And, of course, of course. And he just wanted to have a call back to all the old bands that contributed so much to music in the Midwest. And it was great that he included us. And he was a rock star. He was actually the rock star for a while. Every band wanted to get a hold of him. Everybody wanted to talk to him. Everybody wanted to get involved with him. I ended up in the documentary. There's a live segment of the different bands, and just bringing everybody back together again for that. I mean, the place was crowded, tons of people. I was in several of the bands that I had to fill in for, people lost their bass player, singer, or whatever. So, people will see me in this band, that band, and that band. And
I remember that night.
Dave Dillette also, he had found some sheet music to a song he liked the lyrics for, and he asked, and it was from like the 1800s, and it was like a battle song, from back then. And he asked if I could transcribe it into metal, and I did. And that ended up being the end credit music too. And I assembled musicians. Awesome. I recorded it and brought in the musicians, and it was all done in my basement. And it was a great time. It was a great time. And, I would like to see him hopefully one day release that documentary streaming somewhere so that younger people can see what we did and who we were.
Yeah, immortalize it. Put it on the online. Put it on the online. You can put everything on the Tubi. Tubi does a lot of good things with with local film people. Amazon is pretty easy to get on. Hulu. There's a lot of those streaming services that are looking for anything to fill a slot so they can sell ad space. So, I mean, it's really easy to get out there on a lot of different platforms. Go get it. Because, fuck. There was, we used a piece of that for Remo in a remembrance episode where we use the footage from that.
If you go to my YouTube page, there's some footage at Smokin' Joe's of several different songs that Dave Dillette and somebody else had filmed.
What was your name on YouTube?
Alan Dane.
Oh, here we go. We got Wicker Man live cover.
There you go.
We got Ton of Bricks cover. Go to Hell. Which one you want to play? We also got Lies.
You should have I Assassin on there. You should have I Assassin on there.
There's Lies, Standoff, Cut the Cord. I believe I Assassin.
Check to see if that's from Rooters or if it's from Smokin' Joe's.
Assassin. Oh, this is from Rooters. So here we go. Let's go ahead and play this.
No, that's Smokin' Joe's.
smoking shows. Thank you, Joe. Thanks, Pete. Thanks, Dane Gillette, Angry Bruce Productions,
We'll see you
and
at
both
Rooters.
the Bills.
We'll see you at Rooters September 16th and 17th.
Make sure you come out to Rooters 16th and 17th for the Full Circle event. Theater is Saturday night on the 17th.
Hey, he's got big balls.
That was that shit. But yeah, that was always a lot of energy came from your guys' shit. You just saw that your guys' fucking hands just going the whole time. Fucking Jim back there fucking going crazy. Like,
Yeah, Jim actually wrote that song. It was the only full song well, mostly full song. Me and Frank kind of put together the middle section, but the rhythm and the lyrics were all Jim's. The rhythm line, he was struggling with the chorus guitar part. We worked with that, and yeah, but it was pretty much Jim. That was all Jim's baby.
that fucking thing was awesome. Watching stuff like that, I get flashbacks from everything from Jim's basement to the actual shows. What has been? And you talked about lowest times. What has been the best times in regards to everything with music? What has been some of the biggest accomplishments that you feel you've made?
Believe it or not, the biggest accomplishments were actually the highest points were actually some of the smallest ones. Someone coming up to you during a show saying, how you influence them. Hey man, I grew up listening to you, man. You guys were, so awesome. And people coming to you at shows saying, hey, because of you, I started learning how to play bass. And, those are the high points, and it's all small stuff, the nights that you're playing and you realize that there are 5 women in front of you and in front of the stage that all think they're going home with you.
Yeah.
And in that moment, at first you go, oh crap, how am I going to juggle this?
But then you look
And
back
then
and giggle.
yeah, these are the same women that wouldn't look twice at me back in high school. But yeah, those were some great times. And it's all the little stuff. It's not the big stuff at all. I remember VH1 Behind the Music, where they have famous people talking about stuff that happened on the road and all the crazy stuff, and the drunk stories, the drug stories, and screw you guys, I lived just like that.
Yeah.
There's no difference. It's just on a smaller scale and a smaller geologic area. It's all the same. Those are the great moments.
Yeah, the smallest things, like the people that you've touched in some way, whether it be with the music you made or, like you said, turning them themselves into musicians. That is a really, actually, low key, probably like the biggest thing somebody could say is as a compliment. Like, now that you say that, that's a
Well, you told me yourself recently you freaked out when people wanted to meet you and get their picture taken with you. Those are the
yeah,
highest points. Those are
yeah,
the highest moments.
yeah. It's like, wow, really? It's
You
like,
know,
they reach
people.
over, grab your flyer and a marker. Here, sign this. What? Like,
I had fun with people asking me to pretend we were friends because they wanted to impress the girl that they were with, And so, yeah, go ahead, go back to your seat, and I'll come find you in a few minutes, and I got you. I got you. You go over there and you buddy up to them, give them a hug. Hey man, how you been? And they're like, thanks. You got to impress your girl tonight. So, and I never saw myself as that way. I always saw myself as, somebody who never made it, and when people do that to you, it's an ego boost. It really is.
makes you realize that on some level you did make it.
Yeah.
Just not on that national one. There's different levels to the shit. You were at the top of the level you were on. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I'm still doing the shows. I'm still getting the whatever high that you get from doing it. Still getting it.
Yeah, that's all you can keep doing. Um, what is now the old places? Yeah, man, are some of your favorite places. Now there's been a lot of the changes now. Um, where are some places that you guys would like to play? And with the new bands, low key, because there's a lot of cool bands out there now. Like, what bands could you see yourself linking with? What venues can you see yourself linking with? You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I've talked to some other bands about doing some shows in the future. I really don't want to mention them by name because if things fall through, I don't want anybody to say, "Well, I thought so and so," blah blah blah. Um, and in terms of venues, I'm still kind of I've been out of the scene for 4 years, 5 years, since Jim died, and I'm still learning where the new venues are, and it's funny. One of the places, like the bar, I played there years ago, and it was called something else, and at a place called Camp Karma. Well, I played there years ago, and when it was called Mary's on the Corner, Theatera played there for somebody's birthday party, and that was a wild time ago. Steve Wingo, also known as Evil,
Yeah.
another one we lost. Um, yeah, it was his 50th birthday, but yeah, I played there too. I I don't know. I play wherever God feels that I should be placed.
Hell yeah. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of venues out. The venues that there have been, they're kind of like in like a little war with each other, honestly, over who has the best sound systems. No bullshit, because they've kind of figured out that like, okay, nobody wants to hang out in a place where there's shitty sound. So a lot of them either upgraded themselves or they've reached out to some sound and lighting company to come in and hook it up, and it's been low key really cool seeing a lot of the changes that are being made for it. I don't see it as much as the old days where you had to lug all your gear to every show. Like not at least not a PA. So I mean,
I ended up selling a lot of my PA after Jim died. My PA and lights. So actually, you have some of it. So
yep, yep. Although all the speakers I got know that are powered though, so it's like, but you already know, like anytime. You said that there was some shows that you were looking at doing. All right, cool. You know what location? I didn't even really ask that. I said, who could you see yourself working with? Who do you want to work with? You want to work with people like, oh yeah, Conniption's fun, Aces High is cool, like, Hangar 18's cool, Thrash is cool, like, like, I
well,
heard
I mean,
Shelly Mack in the reunion gets down, they may actually do a cool thing, like, come on now.
I like to work with everybody, but yeah, I'm looking more forward to playing again with guys I used to do shows with before.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah, Theatera did a show with Thrasher. That was a great time. I'd love to do it again. But how much of our music is actually crossover? If our stuff we're playing a lot of the same stuff they're doing, that may be impossible. Because
Right.
you can't have the duplications, and even like Aces High, we do a couple Iron Maiden tunes.
Right.
We'd have to drop those, but that's okay too. But yeah, I mean, if any of those guys, Conniption or Thrasher or Aces High or any of those bands asked me to do a show, I'd try to make it happen.
Hell fucking A. Anybody out there looking for, another metal band that wants to run out there, he's open for shows. They're open for shows. Ruin Unleashed. You got you, Brian Bollet, and who else in there?
Nate on he's second lead guitar player, and Tommy. But yeah, basically a tortured soul. Yeah.
Awesome. So a tortured soul plus you.
Yeah, but Brian is kind of like A Tortured Soul was his most recent, but he, like I said, him and I put Theatera together. We found Theatera.
Right.
And he stepped in for a while with Stuntcock too. So
Yeah,
we
I
have
noticed
those.
him always pop in and out. Like him is like, hey man, Choo. Come back in later. Yes, I'll see you again.
Yeah, I think this one has more of a chance though.
What's your favorite gigs to do? The club gigs or the private party gigs? Like I know you like smaller venues. Okay, cool. But do you like it better as like a birthday party or as like just like an open gig or?
Well, I prefer playing the clubs. Um, like I said before, a full house in a small club is much more awesome than a bunch of people who don't know who you are.
Right. I guess yeah. When you get hired for like a birthday party, it's like one or two people that are organizing the place new, but nobody else knows who you guys are. So they're kind of versus a club where it's like they're coming to see you because they know your shit.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Because I mean, a lot of times at a private party, they'll be like, "Who are those guys? Who's playing next? What is that? What do they play? What do they play?" And yeah, I mean, they're not as enthusiastic as when you have ads up and people they know they're coming to see you.
Right. Out of all the years, I know you have a lot of stories. But but what is the weirdest?
The weirdest.
The weirdest.
Uh I don't know if it counts as weird. Uh Back years ago, yeah, no, I can't. I'd get canceled.
Damn. Did a wig go flying or something? Like what happened? Come on.
Let's just say a guy thought he was doing really well with this woman he met until we had to get to him, and yeah, that was fun. There was the time I was deaf. Um, in '96, we were Whammy Weekend Showcase Act out at the main room at the rave, and I had contracted laryngitis, and I didn't want to give up the gig, so the doctors filled me full of drugs, pumped me full of drugs, gave me told me if I wanted to, they asked me, how long do you need to play? I said, 40 minutes. They said, well, you might make it 20. And one of them was no speaking until the moment we went on stage. So I had to keep my mouth shut. And from the moment we got to the venue, no one else was helping me out. Jim wasn't helping me out. And our guitar player at the time, Jeff Fisher, who's also,
Damn.
but no one was helping me out trying to get signed in, get our security passes and all that crap. And so I'm stumbling, trying to write notes to the security people. And Jim comes up behind me and tells the security people, look, he's a deaf mute. But if you look at him when you're talking to him, he reads lips really well. So it went through the whole place: sound guy, security, the Wisconsin Area Music Industry Award people, that there was a deaf guy in one of the bands. And it actually filtered into the audience too.
Oh, no.
And everybody was waiting to see what I did in the band. Well, he can look at what he's playing and he can feel the beat through the vibrations. That's how he's playing in a band and all this other crap. And then the joke started up with, he's the lead singer. The deaf guy's the lead singer.
The deaf mute.
The deaf mute's the lead singer. And that was a joke that was going around. Here we get out, we get introduced, we come out on stage and start slamming. We slam the first song, and I'm like, man, we're playing really good. Get to the end of the song, and there were crickets.
The fuck?
I thought, oh my God, we're bombing. I thought we just played really well, and we're bombing. We finished our set, got off stage, and one of the security guys grabbed me and he explained the reason the place was silent is they couldn't believe you were the singer because they thought you were deaf mute.
You can hear, I'm sure you can hear the murmurs throughout the crowd, like, "Oh my God, the deaf guy is the singer. The mute is the singer." Oh no! I wonder if anybody over at Whammy remembers that.
Uh, I don't know. Marilyn Mima might remember it. Julie might remember it. But I'm not sure.
Oh man, like the odd damage that does just it's. But they weren't bad though. But he's deaf mute. What the how?
We got a lot of compliments afterwards. No, you guys sounded really great. No, well, where was all the clapping?
Right, we were in shock. That's fucked
And
up.
it was kind of like the same thing. Playing out in Waukesha back in the old Peabody's days. The first couple of times I went out there and played, I thought, man, we are not going over well in Waukesha. I don't know why, because we do these shows and here we sounded great. Everything went well, but there's nothing in between songs. Nothing. People just standing there staring at us. Well, I don't understand. If they don't like us, why did they come?
Right.
And like the third or fourth time we played out there, some people actually came up to me and told me how much they liked hearing us play. And I asked them, how come no one applauded? No one made any noise. And he said, well, that's just the way it is in Waukesha. So you kind of had to get used to that. You do the whole show without hearing any crowd response. And it was just,
That's odd.
it's the way they are out there. I think I don't.
Waukeshaians.
That's the way it was. People, there was no big hooping and hollering, but man, they'd come up to you and tell you how much they liked you. You guys were great. Well, thanks.
It would have been nice to know. I think that actually happens a lot more than it doesn't. Like there has to be a host there that actually like makes everybody cheer because it's like, bro, like you liked it. Come on now, say something. Like come on. It's the best piece of advice you could leave for the younger musicians.
Don't give up.
That seems to be the trend.
Don't give up. Work at your craft. Don't compete against other bands. You're all in it together. When I first started playing shows, it was competing over who was better. A lot of fights and everything. Don't worry about them. Worry about you. And if you're going to write originals, remember you're trying to create an audience. You're trying to draw people to you. So don't worry about, well, this is what I think people will like and will ram it down their throats until they love it. You also have to take into account that people have to want to hear it. And you need to write stuff that people can follow. And there are times to show off. There are times to just make stuff people like. It has to speak to people. Don't be specific about how your girl screwed you over. Make it a little more generic so it fits their life. It fits their situation. It fits into something that they identify with. Because that's what you're going to want. The music has got to speak to them. That's probably the best I would give.
Yeah, there's a big thing of hits aren't made, they're marketed. And there is a point of truth to that. Because there's been, of course, we all know some bands that shouldn't have made it big, but they did just because they got rammed the fuck down the throat of. But there are a lot of bands that they did try that with, and it did not fucking work. And then
Yeah.
there's also people that nobody knew who the fuck they were, but blew up overnight. You know what I mean? So it'll cost you a lot, way more money, way more time, way more energy trying to ram something down somebody's throat, and it still may not even work. Versus just in the very beginning of the fucking process, make it something relatable and easy to follow, and
Yep.
it'll catch on by itself.
Exactly. Exactly. When you're playing, when you start out and you're playing in your basement for your buddies, listen to what they're saying. Oh, that thing you did, that song was really cool. Well, find out why. What if you play a song and you get crickets after it every time you play it?
Stop
Get
playing
rid
it.
of the song. Get rid of it. There's a reason you have to get rid of it, or try rewriting it or changing it, so that it's something people will like, and if you're playing a song and you're watching people go to the bar and getting drinks and going to the bathroom, going outside for a smoke, drop that song.
Right.
Because while they're outside having a smoke, I wonder what's going on at the bar over there. Oh, I wonder what they're doing down at such and such a place. Then they're texting their friends.
Right. What I say.
Then they're climbing into an Uber and bye-bye. And the venue owner's going to look around and say, look, there's 10 people here by the time you guys finished. And they won't want to pay you.
Right. I've always kind of been by the side of, man, when you're playing, you want to do banger, 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 banger. You do not want to get time to slow down. Like, I mean, you could do like a ballad in the middle of the bitch, to give people time to go take a piss real quick. But then you got to be right back on it with the banger, 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 banger. Like you got to keep people on their feet the entire time. You know what I mean? Well, that's about what time we have for today. Tell everybody where everybody can find you at.
Look us up on Facebook. The band is called Ruin Unleashed. We're kind of new, so it's kind of sparse for now, but it will be picking up. There'll be more stuff added. So go ahead and like us on Facebook.
Until next time, don't do anything I wouldn't do, and if you do, name it after me.